Hello everyone, welcome to another episode on the ABAP on Cloud Learning series. And in this episode 14, we will learn about how to enable CRUD capabilities for our custom UI5 application. And as a demo application, this is the one that I'll take, of course, which we have built as a part of our learning series. And currently this application doesn't have any CRUD capabilities. It's just a simple report. And in the previous tutorial, part 13 or episode 13, we basically enabled the routing concepts. And on top of this, we will be adding the CRUD capabilities. So I'll be using a smart control in my create view page, so that if you are a beginners to this UI5 topic and had difficulties in implementing smart controls, probably this video will help you out. That's what I feel. So stay tuned till the end, and let's see what exactly we are going to build in this episode. So let's head over to the application or working project where I already have implemented this CRUD facilities. So let's see like how this CRUD operation works there, and that is we are going to build. So just let us know like what exactly we are going to build. So as you see, like this working project, I have had a button at the top as a create button. So if I click on this, it will take me to a new page, and this page is simplified view, of course, but the enter elements, whatever you can see, it's all coming up through our smart controls only. So I have used the smart form and of course the smart fields. And you see like there are certain F4 helps which is working pretty fine, and you can select the records out of these details. You can put certain dates over there, whatever you want, and of course can put certain values, and I can put USD. Let's, for example, it will find the USD details. Let's put something called test new. Okay, one. Let's say this is what my description. So obviously in the footer I have a save and cancel button. So if I click on cancel, it will basically validate whether user had made any changes or not. So it will give you a warning message, which is definitely a need for our productive applications. And we'll also learn like how to validate this change operations been made by user or not. And if I just give a leave page, means it will take me back to the original landing page or the list view. And if I close, of course it will remain there. So let's click on save and see what happens. So I'm expecting a new record will be created. Voila, it's created successfully, 4243. And you will see like now the travel ID been updated with the values. So of course this is what we'll be building up pretty much in this episode. So now let's get into the technicality, like what exactly we have to do to achieve this. So this is our application. As you have been following through my discussion, I believe this kind of a project already you have. So to start with, I would like to copy. Let's close everything first, so that I'm planning to copy from travel detail, and then we'll make a changes of this view as per our need. So now travel detail copy, makes a rename of this view. What I would like to give a name, let's say travel create, and of course the copy. Excuse me. Okay, similarly, let's copy the travel detail controller also and paste it over here in the controller folder, and rename the file, and I would like to give the same name so that we can pretty well can identify, and removing the copy from the file name. Okay, so after copy, I have some sort of reference now details, so that from there I can start. So I don't need the smart forms, etc. Sorry, the simple form. Rather, we are going to add a smart form. So I'm just removing for the timing everything, and I would like to have the page title to be changed as travel create page. Nav button press is fine. I don't need any form over here because I'll be using smart form, so I don't need anything as such. Okay, I think page I'll need, so I'll keep it like this. And just to go about like what the smart form does, and before that let's make little bit of adjustment because we have copied from the travel detail. So let's make us let necessary adjustment first. So this view is quite okay now, and we are good to go for adding up some smart controls over here. Okay, so it's fine. Let's go to travel create controller now and make the necessary adjustments. Let's put it back as travel create. The on init part, it is actually checking for our route called detail, but I don't need a detail anymore. Let's say I need a new route to be dedicated for the travel create view. So let's create travel is my route name. That pretty much, let's say we are going to put, and I don't need anything as of now. We'll definitely create all sort of things in this video, but let's make it ready for that. Now button press will take me back to this original page, so I need this method, so keep it like this. So definitely fine, looks like okay. So what next we have to do, let's create a route for that. So for the route we have to go to manifest file, manifest.json, and let's make it a little bigger. So let's copy this route and paste it here. I would like to give a different name this time. Let's my pattern is create travel. Let's copy paste everything same, and so I need a travel target now, right? So let's copy this target and paste it here. Change the target name as create travel. Okay, so now booking detail, we have to give some name over here. Let's put something called same name again. Create travel is my view ID. And what is my view name, which I should be careful little. It's travel create, okay, not a create travel. So make sure just we put it properly. It's travel create. I think it's all good. Yeah, travel create. I think we are good to go now. Let's format a little bit, and I think it is okay. Some sort of parentheses I can see. I don't need them probably. I just remove it. Yeah, so I think we are good for the time being. So let's save this one manifest. So what next we need a button as a create, because we have to navigate from the travel list view. So let's add it up over here. So save this file and let's run this once to see like if everything works. But before even executing this one, let's add a function. So let's now create that function, and you have to go into the travel list controller. We can put somewhere here maybe, and let's put a comma and let's make it a little bigger. So what exactly we need a router instance and corresponding nav to call, because we need to navigate to a new page. Okay, so here detail is not our root name, right? We have created a different root name. We call it create travel, and these are the things I don't need actually. We can remove it, and we can remove any parameters JSON. We don't have any parameters, right, as a pattern. So that pretty much we have it. Let's save this out. So probably now we can test this application once more. So rerun this application, npm start, and it's listening on 5000 port. Great. So now we can see the button and the data is also coming up. So if I click on this button, hopefully it will take me to a new page, and yes, it is, and I'm now in the travel CRUD page. So nav button should work fine. Yes, it is working. So now we are good to go for adding up the smart controls. So for that we can go to our sample demo kit for SAP UI5 demo kit, and we can search for the smart form and you will get a few examples. So let's see what exactly they need as a dependency. Smart form and smart field, these two things I also need. So let's go back to our view called travel create view, and let's add it up there. Okay, so that's fine. And after that we need something like this smart form. I need some ID and give some name like ID travel create. So that is, this is the ID for my smart form. What else I can add? Editable, yes, because we have to have, by default editable is false, we have to make it true. And flexible, let it make it false. Okay, so now we are good with the smart form part. What next we need some sort of group element, but before group element we need basically something hierarchical kind of concepts we have to build. So after, within smart form we'll have a group, and within group we'll have a group element, and within group element we have to put the smart field. So kind of an control aggregation, as you can understand. So let's also build similar way. So let's put something called smart form, but I don't need a custom data. I need something called group, and group can have a label, right? Put a label like travel details. Okay, and within group we'll be adding a group element, right? So let's create something called smart form group element, and within this element, so let's put within group element the smart field, and within the smart field we have to put a value, the one that we are interested. Okay, so sorry, it is not, of course it's my bad, it is not part of a smart form, it is a smart field. So if I put smart field, then only it will be perfect, otherwise I can get a syntax error also, right? So value we have to put within a curly braces. Let's put what value I need. Let's put it's a travel ID. Okay, so that is because I don't want to add any other properties, because smart control works with the metadata information, because in the OData side, whatever the metadata we have added or annotations we have added, smart control the concept is it will extract the details or meta information from the metadata file, XML file, and it will render it smartly. So that is the overall concept behind the smart control. So this is what we want, I believe. And let's now create a few more things we can copy and paste so that we don't need to repeat typing. So we need some sort of called customer ID, and we need something called agency ID, because those are the part of our our entity for the travel. So let's do a pretty XML and see what happens. So we have created a group with the name travel details, and we are adding 3 smart fields: travel ID, customer ID, and agency ID. Okay, let's quickly test it and see what happens. Okay, and if I just reload, you see only the travel details that is being shown. That means it is rendering this particular label only. But what about our travel ID, customer ID, and agency ID? Do you think it's something is missing out, right? So the problem here is we have to actually, though in the manifest.json we have our model, travel model globally available, but we have to bind this model explicitly for the view where we are rendering the smart control. So this is an important thing. You have to be a little bit careful, and you have to remember this thing, that we need to add this in the travel create page. We need to add this model. So to do that, we'll basically add something called this .o model, and we'll just get the model, travel model from the manifest. So that means this .get owner component, and we'll put something called get model and put the model name. Travel model is our model name, as we have seen there before. And this get view set model, we have to specifically bind this model with this view. Okay, so this is one thing we have to do. And next thing is, like, we have to create a context, okay, a kind of a virtual context, and that we have to bind with this smart form. So for that, we have to do something on this method, because on route match, whenever the route will be determined, and it will this function is being assigned to, so here inside we will create a context, and we will attach this context with the smart form. So that means let's create a context called this .o context, and this .o model that we have already defined .create entry, okay, that we are going to use. And here we'll be adding that entity set, which is our travel is our entity set, and we'll add some callback functions now. So let's put something called group ID first, and give it a name called create group, and then something called success. We'll put O data, and we'll define the success later. Error, and okay, so error, and we'll put a function, callback function. I think we have done good. So we are creating a context. So once the context got created, what you have to do to bind this context with the smart form. So we have the smart form ID called ID travel create. So this is our smart form ID. So let's get that ID first. This get view by, I think directly ID is also working, but that's okay. Just keep it for the time being. Oh, sorry. It's pasted incorrectly. So let's copy this one and paste it over here. So I have got the travel, that smart form. Then we have to bind set binding set binding context, and we'll give the context details like this dot o context. Okay, so this is done. So now we have created a partial context and we have attached that context with our smart form, and we also set this model specifically for this view. So let's rerun this application once more. Let's reload it and see what's going around. Voila. Now I can see the travel ID, customer ID and agency ID. Important thing, you see the travel ID is basically coming up as an display only, while customer ID and agency ID is basically coming up with a F4 help and of course an editable field. And that's the interesting point for the smart control, because it is taking the metadata information, whether it will be an editable or key field, because travel ID is a key field, right? So it will be generated by our unmanaged service model. And that's the reason it is coming up as an display only, while the other two are coming up as a customer ID and agency ID as an editable. So let's add few more fields, whichever I need to create our travel ID, and then we'll be testing it back once again. So now one group is over. So let's create another group. Let's copy again and put something called travel dates, because we need begin date and end dates, right? So we'll put begin date and let's put end date. I don't need agency ID anymore. That's okay. So travel dates we have added. What we need some sort of fees, booking fees, right? So these are also required. So travel fees, and this time we can add like something booking fee, and of course we can remove end date from here. You just note I am not adding any currency code with my fee, but as it's a smart control, smart field, so it will automatically understand what currency code I have attached or declared at the CDS layer. From there it will automatically taken care of. Okay, what next we are going to do? Let's add one more thing, and that is our description that we had, or calling it something called travel note. And we can add something called memo, because that is what we declared. So can we test once more and see what's going around? Let's go back, reload this file once again, and now we'll click on this button. Voila, now all things are well decorated and well placed. Okay, so let's see the F4 help is working or not. No, it is not working. Okay, agency ID also not working. We have one more currency that is also not working, but the dates are working. So there is a reason behind why it is not working and how to make it work. So let's get into our Eclipse and see what exactly we declared and why it is not coming up. Okay, now this is our Eclipse, and if you just see, I had two kind of service bindings. One is the web API, and this is what is I have already opened, and it doesn't have any annotations linked, because web API I don't have any annotations, while I can have something called booking service built out on the same CDS layer, but it does have annotations linked to, and that's the reason it has a preview options. So let's quickly check the difference, because in our UI5 application we are basically using the web API, not the annotation based service. Now I would like to check the metadata for our service $metadata, and it has all these properties and entities, right? So if you just go down a little, you find something called annotations. Okay, so we are not seeing any F4 help for our customer code, or maybe customer ID or agency ID. So let's search for customer ID. So here is our customer ID, and under this we have basically this particular, search helper collection of details should have come out. Okay, search supported. Because it's search supported, so it is actually showing the F4 icon, and it is also opening the pop-up, but unfortunately it cannot map any columns over there, because these are the details that is supposed to be rendered. Because if I now compare with the service that we have linked with our UI5 application, because we didn't link booking underscore u, we have basically linked web API underscore u. Quickly check our applications so that it will be clear. If you go to model, you see we are basically using web API. Okay, so now we'll also compare what's going with this web API service URL. I mean, don't we have that metadata details, annotation details? I think some. Okay, so let's remove this out, put again $metadata, and again search for customer ID. You see in the annotations we don't have those details of the pop-up. Okay, so we can add definitely our custom search help, but just to save time, and I don't my focus is rather to create the travel details. So to save time, I want to leverage this service, not the web API anymore. Okay, so that's the reason. Let's quickly toggle the name of the service and we should be good to go. So what is the service name? Is basically ZSD travel booking. Okay, underscore u. That is the service name. So let's copy this out quickly from our URL and put it back to our manifest.json, saving it, and let's rerun this application and let's see what's going around. Okay, go back and reload. Data still coming up, but I'm not sure the file got loaded or not. Let's test it and click on F4. Voila, see, now the things are well coming fine, and we can select the data as well, right? So everything is, even the currency will be also working. So that is something we have done. So what we have to do next, we have to definitely add some save and cancel button in our footer, and then we'll further drill down with the create operations. So let's open the travel create view and add a footer sections where I'm just adding save travel record and cancel travel record. And let's create the function for the travel create controller. We can create a function like save, and of course we have created another one that is called cancel travel. Right, so these two things we have added. While I'm creating this virtual context, right, I don't want a direct batch call to the backend. I need to restrict until unless user is actually entering the data and click on the save button. How we can do that? So for this, I have used this group ID. So this group ID I'll basically use to set deferred group. Okay, and there I just need to add this group ID, create group. So I'm just doing a deferred group because immediately I don't want to give a backend call out of this batch call made. Okay, I don't want to do that, because rather I'll just setting it deferred for this particular group, so that Once user click on the save button, then only I want to submit it. So now user will click on the save button and this method will be called, this function will be called, and there we have a option now called this.o model, and then I'll do submit changes. Okay, and we need to add a few callback functions to see like if the submit changes done properly or not. So for that we need to do a group ID again with this same group name, create group, and add a few success callback function as well. We can error, okay. So success and error, that two things we have added as a callback function. And hopefully now after user click on the save button, I'll be able to save the data. So I mean it will definitely hit the backend wrap method. So that means let's go back to our wrap service once more. It's our source code library, and there we have created some classes, and our unmanaged model we have something called, this is our travel unmanaged API. Go to the local types, and there is something called travel create, right? So this is where I am planning to set a breakpoint. Go to the debugger and go to the go to breakpoints and refresh all the breakpoints. I think I can do from here as well. So the breakpoint I have set. So if I click on save button, obviously the control should now go back to our wrap service. So let's see whether it is really doing that. But before that, we need to save the files. And I hope everything set properly. Yeah, some small mistakes really bothers. It's a human error, we cannot do something. Okay, so now it is actually coming up with this save and cancel button, and go to my network. Network also looks okay. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just going to add some values. Let's say adding some agency ID, customer ID, add some dates, add some value over here. Then we should call test new 2. So if I click on save, let's check trace our network and see what's happening. That's what I was expecting. The batch call is getting failed and it doesn't connect to our backend debugger. What wrong? Let's go and see. If I just little down, it is telling that CSRF token is required. So what actually the wrong thing happening over here, that while I'm creating a context, right? So that time I have to pass a header section, and there I have to pass a CSRF token explicitly in productive environment, but it's a demo application, so I want to suppress this CSRF. For that, little bit of tricks I have to do. I have to go to accessapp.json, and there I have to just suppress my CSRF. And okay, saving it. But now I cannot just reload this application. It will not work because the port been already notified that it is not passing CSRF. So I have to just stop this application, and I have to reload this application once more. Means npm start again I have to call. Okay, so again this application is reloaded, listening on port 5000, going back and reload this application. and see what's going around. Hopefully it will not create a problem, but we'll get stuck into a different issue now. Let's see what is the new issue. Fine. So let's close again. Now we click on the inspect and click on save. Let's see this time what's happened with the network. Yeah, you see now the backend is getting triggered. Interesting, right? So double click on this travel create and see what's been entered. There is one entry been found, but hey, I don't have any values being passed. That's what I told. It's another issue that been encountered, and we have to fix this out. What you have to do basically, so let's execute this one because it will anyway not do anything. Actually data was not saved. Why? Because we have to do one more thing. While I'm binding it, set binding context, at the same time we have to do something like this model. We need to do a two-way binding. Okay, set default binding two-way. Okay, that we have to change. So let's see, let's rerun once and see what's going around. Clicking on save, and I'm expecting now it will directly hit back. And if I now double click on my travel create, see now all the details are coming up pretty fine, right? All my dates, all my amount, and also the memo, everything is coming fine. So if I just execute this one, obviously it will create a travel ID. I don't know because I didn't put a breakpoint there. So we can put a breakpoint somewhere in the save travel submit changes. We can put some debugger and we can just verify what's actually coming up. Okay, so let's quickly make some sort of success callback function now and update with the message statement like what been created, and then we'll just learn about something discard functionality because I have to discard some changes if user clicks on cancel button. So let's do that first now. So now set that success method callback function with this details. So what it says like, okay, so I'm just checking that OData part and extracting the patch response with this travel ID that been created, and I'm just seeing like if it is status code is 201 means it's created, then I'm just going to show that message box. But I believe this message box we need to add it to our dependencies, we don't have yet. So let's add the message box somewhere like this. Add this message box after our message toast and set separate it with a comma, and I think it should be fine. There are still certain syntax errors on app press, so let's just copy this one and add this on app press. Probably have to add one more parenthesis bracket, then it is all set. Yep. So now we have added the success message, and so it will now show the travel ID that been created. At the same time, we have to now do something with the cancel button because we have to give a user a confirmation whether they need to remove this context or not. We'll be calling the sim function nap press again, and let me this dot nap press, that is the function we'll again call, and we'll put so we are saying like we are checking the previous route, and we have to use this hash pending changes function of our model to see if there is any pending changes done by the user to be saved. And in that case, I'll just show this message saying like, hey, you would like to leave this page, kind of a confirmation, and you are setting it up, and a leave page action button that we are going to give the button name as a leave page. And we are just checking if user is clicking on the leave page button, then we'll basically delete that created entry. We have to pass the same context, and the delete created entry function will basically remove the pending context because I'm not willing to save it anymore. And I'm just refreshing the model so that it doesn't have any garbage data. And that pretty much, after the same logic, like we have to use the window history to go back to the original page, or original page in the previous page rather. And if there is no found, then go move back to the landing page or overview page. So that's pretty much the plan. And if there is no such pending changes, then we are good to go directly with the else part, and it will take me to the landing page anyway. So that probably should be good to go now. Let's save it and reload this application once. It's move back to over here. Let's execute. Voila. Now it's showing the travel ID is created successfully. Clicking on OK, and we are over here. If I go back, some problem with the back button. Router is not defined. Cannot read property on a press of undefined. Okay, so some problem over here in the back button now. So let's quickly fix. Okay, I need to do a bind this property. So then this is resolved. The router once more, and we are binding it anyway, so router should be fine. Let's so reload this application and let's test it. So now click on nav button. Yeah, see, the nav button is actually asking that there is some context I have created and I'm not saving it out. So do you want to leave this page? If I click on leave page, it is removing this context from the OData model and coming back to the original page. So if I can just give a it's actually give a message and immediately take me back to the original page. Okay, so now the number probably got created. We can see somewhere in our preview tool, because what I'm planning in our next video, I'll be adding this replacing this list view with a smart table, and we'll be adding a smart filter, and from there we'll be able to see the data what been created. But for the time being, let's quickly check our preview tool of our, because same CDS view I'm just using. Just for the time being, we would like to remove this one after I don't want to nav press back immediately, so that I can see the message. And voila, 4248 is the number that we have successfully created. So let's go back to our preview control, and we can search with 4248, and you see test final 700 amount, travel durations is auto calculated, all the details been created. Booking is not yet done because we are not creating booking. In a subsequent video we'll try to do something on this booking part as well. So let's stay tuned. I hope this discussion was helpful to you, because a lot of different tricks was there, and a lot of issues we encountered we have fixed one by one, and finally we are able to achieve the target that we intended for. So thanks for watching this video. Subscribe my channel if you have not done yet, and set the bell icon, don't forget it, so that in subsequent release you'll get notified if I just release some new video. So we'll connect again with a different topic, or maybe continuation of the same application progress in our subsequent video. Okay, goodbye, take care.